I knew that there were going to be people like me around the country, even if it was a small percentage, that would buy this beer at any price and have it shipped to them. If you have ever been out there and drank what the current offering of non-alcoholic beer is, and then all of a sudden there's something that someone has thoughtfully made for you, you'll pay to get it shipped to you. And so that got us going.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, disruptors, and creators who are making things happen. My name is Michael T. Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Tyler Kelly. Tonight, we're at Venture Cafe St. Louis. If you don't know about Venture Cafe, it is the largest gathering of entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. So on a Thursday evening, all across the world, there are creatives, there are business owners, there are startups, there are people gathering, talking, chatting, conquering the world with their ideas. So if you're near one of those cities, you're going to want to check it out. So tonight we have Jeff Stevens on the show. Jeff Stevens is the founder of WellBeing Brewing Company. Jeff, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. That was a good intro, man. You got it going on.
Jeff, welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
So, as Michael said, Jeff's the founder of WellBeing Brewing, and you're a self-proclaimed non-alcoholic.
That's right, I am. I personally am a self-proclaimed non-alcoholic. Yeah.
So years ago, you quit drinking alcohol, but you loved being part of nightlife and bars and the music scene. Yeah,
I quit drinking when I was 24. I just realized, for a lot of reasons, when you get to that age, for me, coming from a long line of alcoholics, it was pretty obvious I wasn't going to make it very far if I kept drinking. So I quit drinking, but when you're 24, you're still going to go out, right? I lived in Chicago, then I moved down here and worked for the Riverfront Times and went out all the time. So you got to figure this out. You got to figure out what you're going to drink. And so I ended up drinking non-alcoholic beer everywhere. And
what was available?
That's mostly bars didn't have anything.
Yeah.
If they did, they would say, let me check if we have something. Then they would go downstairs and see, some dusty whatever. But in St. Louis, it was not, you could get O'Doul's.
O'Doul's.
Yes,
okay.
Of course. So that was the brand. And I ended up spending a career in beer and spirits marketing. So I've done the agency time for a long time, worked on a lot of beer and spirits marketing brands. And when you go out with clients, as I'm sure you do, and everyone's drinking, and then you're not, your choices aren't there. There's just not a lot of choices in most social situations for people who don't drink. And so at some point, as the craft beer explosion happened, someone had asked, why are there no good non-alcoholic beers? And that's kind of it. It's an underserved market, and that's as an entrepreneur, that's what you listen for, right? What can we do to solve that problem? So that's ultimately how we got in this business.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're the first brewery which is solely dedicated to non-alcoholic craft beer.
Yeah, we are one of the first. There are
one of the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one in Canada. There's a couple in the UK. There's one in Connecticut, and then there's one here. So it's a very small fraternity of people doing this. I think that'll change as this market grows, but it was exciting to get in and you're sort of reinventing a category that nothing's been done with that category in 30 years.
Wow.
Everything we brew, we can say we're the first. I brought some beers, but one of them is a coffee cream stout with no alcohol, and it does not exist anywhere in the world. So it's kind of cool. Whatever we make is the first of its kind.
Now, I'm a little bit curious, without you giving away anything you can't talk about.
Yeah.
The process of making beer, usually fermenting, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. What is it that's different about non-alcoholic beer in the process?
Yeah. So, and that's funny. I learned quickly that the reason there weren't many good NA beers was because they're very hard to make. It's hard to get alcohol out of beer and still make it taste good. And so a lot of the historical processes were they would do a thing called stop fermentation, where they wouldn't let the beer ferment, and thus the alcohol wasn't created. But that is sort of a sweet, warty process because the sugars don't get fermented. So it's very sweet. So that's a problem with that NA beer. Or you have to boil the alcohol off, and that when you boil something, it just ruins the flavor. So that's the other way you'd make them. So most NA beers were made, and that's kind of why they were watery. It didn't taste very good or whatever. So after doing a lot of research, I found this machine out of Munich, Germany. It was sitting in the Brewing College of Munich, Germany. And it's called a vacuum distillation machine. And essentially what it does is it puts the finished beer into a vacuum and lowers the boiling temperature to room temperature. So it does it very quickly. So it gently removes this alcohol that's in the beer. And so when you are done, all the flavors and aromas and mouthfeel of the beer comes through. So it's a really good product for what the category is, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would have never thought about that. Like we're somewhat familiar with the brewing process.
Sure.
So does it take a lot of pressure to get that boiling point down?
The machine's amazing to look at. It's quite a piece of technology that it does that. And the vacuum motor that runs the vacuum is massive. So it is a big piece of thing to that. And it does it very fast. So it's not boiling it, it just goes through and strips out the alcohol. But the taste ultimately, and a lot of the aromatics get recaptured in the boil and then reintroduced to the beer. So it's really a great product. And I remember just being a lifelong non-alcoholic drinker, so I'd had them all, every single one at some point I tried. And the first time I tried ours coming off the line, right, you stick a little cup out as they're running it, and I was like, you're praying that it tastes good. You're like, oh, we've spent all this money, brought this machine in, done this giant construction project, and it tasted great. And I knew right away, I was like, we're okay. I love this beer. So It was good. It was exciting.
Now, the craft brewing industry has exploded over the last 20 years or so, and in St. Louis too.
Yeah. We've got quite a scene here.
So,
yeah. Well, yeah, this is the capital of brewing the world, right? I mean, and it's funny because everywhere, in the U.S., I think St. Louis is a beer town, right? But when you go outside the world, this is a real beer town. They're like, we got lots of credibility, We know how to make beer around the world, so that's cool.
One thing about the craft brewery scene, though, is like not very many make it outside of their regional area.
Yes.
But this has, I would think, the potential to go nationwide just because of the decreased competition, but also because there's nothing else out there like this.
Exactly. And so I think we saw an opportunity to try to get out there as fast as possible. It's strange because there's the non-alcoholic beer category, and it was always a very sad category. And people who drank non-alcoholic beer, as I know, were thought of as there's something wrong with you. You're not drinking. Are you okay? Can we drink in front of you? And I think that whole vibe of not drinking has shifted, and it's shifted, in the last couple of years, where I think lots of people aren't drinking for all kinds of different reasons, and it's becoming far more socially accepted. So getting this beer out there, I think there is a big market for it for all different reasons that we never even thought of. Beyond just non-alcoholic beer, there's just all kinds of occasions. So that's exciting. So it's definitely a something we want to take nationwide for sure.
How do you find the people to brew this beer? Like the whole process is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like with such a culture of brewing here in St. Louis, like how do you find people that are so interested in this, and how did you find a team to help you pull this off and all this stuff?
I had because I was in the agency business and my client was Anheuser-Busch, so I knew a lot of people just in the world of that. And when they got bought, a lot of people went out and started their own things. So I had known Jim Gorsica, who is the GM at O'Fallon. He's the owner of O'Fallon Brewery, and so I went to a couple places. He was a client. Always knew him. They've brewed craft beer for 20 some odd years. One of the original craft brewers. So that's how I got involved with them. And from the beginning, I think Jim saw this as an opportunity for them as well. Their brewing team's been terrific. It has taken us a long time to figure out everything, just like anything. It takes a while to figure out how to use the machine and how to make the beer, and which recipes are going to work, which hops are going to work, the bitterness that you put in versus the bitterness you're going to get out, all that kind of thing. But we get better and better at it with every beer. And then I think the rest of the brewing community, at first, we may have been an oddity, at our first couple events. I think the brewers didn't quite know what to make of us. There was just this small debate of, should we be allowed in the Brewers Guild because we're not really beer? What's the definition of beer? Does beer have to have alcohol in it? Whatever. And I think ultimately they let us in. But I think, and now, the more events we go to, at first people were like, we don't get it. Non-alcoholic beer. Why would you take the alcohol out of beer? And the last couple ones we've been at, it's been like, oh, we can't wait to try this. It's great. It's great. So it's really cool to watch that.
How much alcohol is in?
So most NA beers are classified. They have to have less than 0.5% alcohol by volume. each one of ours has a little different. The wheat is 0.2. The Hellraiser is 0.3. The coffee stout I think is 0.3 something. So they'll have like it's what I like to tell people, it's about as much as a banana. So it's just a trace amount. And we have been looking at doing a 0.0 beer just because there's some mostly for like Islamic people want a 0.0 beer. So we've been looking at that as well. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does it, once it's in the can, like it's done
doing
creating alcohol?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. They have things called like you there is dangers of having yeast get back in the can or something. I've heard that like it's an additional fermentation, but we filter ours before it goes into packaging, so that gets anything that would possibly do that out of it.
All right.
Yeah.
You want to taste one of these?
Yeah, you guys should have
definitely.
one.
I want to taste one.
Just coffee cream brew.
Yeah. So this is a stout. The TTB, which regulates the industry, won't allow us to use the word stout, even though it is. They make us use the word brew, which is fun. But yeah, this is delicious. I'm gonna pour you guys a little. And I don't know if you're in. I've also got kind of a hoppy amber. Called Hellraiser, which why not? Are you guys craft beer drinkers? I assume, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start you with this. So it's a very nice head on these as well, which I always like to point out because some.
And that's key. I mean, especially if you're trying to join in the social group.
You need that.
Yeah.
You need a little of that.
So this is the dark amber that
this
we're
is
trying.
this is the Hellraiser. So if you drink this, I don't know what you guys are going to go out and raise some hell tonight. So, but you'll be.
Wow,
home.
that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would never know that's not a beer.
Yeah, you'd never know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the exciting part about. Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever tasted a non-alcoholic beer before.
You know what? I think I have tasted Old Duels, or there's another one, Rolling Rock. No, I'm kidding. That's
there you go. That's the coffee stout.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Smells good.
Yeah, it's really nice. We use Mississippi Mud, which is a local roaster, as our coffee.
The ones with the guitar on there.
Mm-hmm. I always want to drink a coffee stout for breakfast.
Right.
But I feel like an alcoholic, so now I can.
Now you can.
Yeah.
It's the perfect drink. And it's funny, we started marketing this because it's got caffeine in it. We compare it to a Coca-Cola or a sugar soda. If you run the stats on that, it's like a sugar soda has 40 some odd grams of sugar in it and 140 calories, and this has 120 calories and 7 grams of sugar. And so if you just kind of think like your afternoon pick-me-up or whatever, I think in that world there's so many of these occasions that you can start to, because we don't have alcohol in us and because we're such a delicious beer, it's just a better product all around.
So let's shift gears and talk about, I mean, obviously, I think, if for those of you who are watching, you can see, and of course we'll put a website link in the show notes, but you can see the beauty of the labeling and just the marketing. So we can skip past the marketing and let's just talk about like getting your product in the stores. That was probably a new challenge for you.
It did, because when you start this, a non-alcoholic beer was not a category that was growing. I'd seen it been growing outside the U.S., but it wasn't growing in the U.S. So you go to your first couple wholesalers and they run their numbers and they're like, this isn't doing any business. Are you crazy? And so it took us a while to re-educate the whole. It just took us some time to get everyone up to speed on the trends. We were, fortunate that Gray Eagle here in the county embraced us pretty early on, and I think that really helped. And so kudos to them. They're a smart wholesaler. And then Total Wine, kudos to them. A very smart retailer embraced us as well. And those are the two that kind of saw this as something that's coming and really, really got it. So we were lucky, but still every day we have to go through the process. It's getting easier and easier. Heineken put $40 million into their 0.0 beer that launched in the U.S. last December or something.
Wow.
And that's helped. That's really helped because it's just made the category feel like, somebody's putting some real money into it. So.
Now, are you taking shelf space from the other NA beers or from beers?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you'd be surprised when you go into Chinook's, there's 6 or 7 or 8 kinds of NA beers. And that space is, but I think we have taken it from the NA beers. I think basically we go in and say, what's the one that's not selling the best? Let's start ours there, and we can usually sell more than that. So they're happy with that. But it'll be interesting as this category grows where that shelf space will come from, for sure.
So I lied because I want to go back to the marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been.
I mean, the branding.
Curious about
the
that.
branding is solid, but a marketing question
Yeah.
would be, how do you introduce people to a brand new brand?
Yeah.
And especially a brand new
Yeah.
product in the category.
Yeah.
To get them to come in and look for it.
Yeah, and it's one good thing we've had. I as someone who has been in this situation so many times in my life, I knew that there were going to be people like me around the country, even if it was a small percentage, that would buy this beer at any price and have it shipped to them. So because we're non-alcoholic, we can ship to direct to consumers where beer cannot. And so we started online early and started shipping when we weren't even in cans, and we were shipping what I thought was crazy amounts of bottles. And we would pack the bottles in our living room, and they'd break all the time. And it's just like this funny thing. But people, if you have ever been out there and drank what the current offering of non-alcoholic beer is, these super sad brands, and you're around your friends who are having all these amazing craft beers all the time, and then all of a sudden there's something that someone has thoughtfully made for you, you'll pay to get it shipped to you. And so that got us going. In the January of last year, we got a lot of people online. We had a couple articles break locally. That helped. And then the word kind of spread, just as it does, of people who are into this product. So the New York Times or the Washington Post did a little piece in April, and that really helped us too. So yeah, it's just, you just kind of get those breaks, I guess, along the way, right? But the idea of non-alcoholic craft beer is something we get emails all the time that just basically tell us, thank you so much. We've been waiting for someone to do a non-alcoholic craft beer, for sure.
So tell us about kind of, apart from the marketing, like figuring out your product, what other aspects of the business were a challenge? Like the process of starting this business and this company.
Everything. And you, coming from the agency side, right? And so you guys are brand experts, right? You're storyteller experts, and you guys see stories all the time. You're pitched them by your creative team. When something hits you. When you're like, yes, that makes perfect sense to me. I know this is a story that people are going to connect with. So I knew that from the early side of the product itself, the idea of well-being and all that stuff, but didn't know anything about the business side of it, the manufacturing side of it. My goodness, like how manufacturing works and costs of goods and all that stuff. Had to learn all that. You just power through it. And then I had to learn the e-commerce side of it. Like getting on Amazon's not easy, just all that stuff. And even the digital marketing side and I was, a creative director, but you had to really dig into that. So you learned how to do all that. I'll tell you what really helped me is, and we were pretty far along, but I went to the Square One Ignite program, which I think is it's out of CIC on Sarah. But I know that lots of people around here have done that. And it's like a 12-week program. And they walk your business idea through all the stages of starting a business, from the business plan to the marketing to the cost models to this. And every week they had a speaker come in and how you can finance it. Raising money. My goodness. Raising money. My goodness, that's hard. All that stuff. So, yeah, you just stumble through it, right? I guess you just work your way through every single phase of it. But that was really helpful in asking all the questions that you need to have asked. And so I thought St. Louis was, as a ecosystem, I knew there was a lot going on, but when you're in it, there's a lot of support. That's great.
And a previous guest with what's the name?
I'm drawing a blank. The raising money process. You were the first.
Yeah. Oh yeah, on Invest.
Yeah, on Invest.
Invested.
Yeah, Invested. Yeah. That's it.
So you were the first company on Invested.
Yep. And it was really nice timing, and kudos to them. Whoever I don't know where that came from, but was ultimately funded by the Port Authority of St. Louis, who knew we had one, right? But someone said, let's have a crowdfunding website focused on St. Louis businesses. They launched last July, I guess, June or July. We did it because I was like, well, this will be great. We raised $200,000, and I couldn't encourage people who are trying to do that, right? There's some work to do it, for sure, but it's a great way to raise money. It's really good money for an entrepreneur. It's not a loan. It's You're not pitching venture cap. You're not giving up. It's great money, and you get an audience, right? It's a marketing campaign as well. So.
Yeah, that's the thing that we gathered from that episode is that these people are buying into your story because they actually believe in your story and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like Kickstarter, but they really are buying equity, which is great, right? So they have a little stake in the company, which is awesome. Yeah, couldn't be happier with that.
So what's coming up next for
us?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're at the phase where, every company, we're trying to get to the point where we are breaking even. That's always hard. So we're just like looking at I think we're going to get there this year. So that's exciting. And that's just like your what you spend a month is the same as what you make a month, right? So that's you guys have, I'm sure, been there in your starting an agency. And then we have a couple new beers coming out. We are launching a beer with a sports beer with electrolytes in it. So it's a Michelob Ultra meets Gatorade without all the stuff you don't want, the alcohol that dehydrates you, and the artificial flavors and added sugars that Gatorade has. So to me, this is a really interesting market because I think beer and athletes are very connected in ways.
Softball. I'm just thinking
like all
softball.
these bar league teams.
Yeah. Everyone who works out wants a beer at the end, right? And even the hardcore marathoners want a beer at the end. So that to me is really exciting. So that'll be out in a couple weeks. So we'll give you so that's the new one. And then CBD is just everywhere, and every brewer is looking at how to do that, and we're trying to figure out if that's a thing for us. The laws are really weird and very quirky, and no one knows if you can legally do it. But that's all everyone's talking about. So we'll see.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Jeff, how can people get in touch, follow, connect, order?
Yes.
All of the above.
Yes. WellBeingBrewing.com. That's a great one. You can email me at jeff@wellbeingbrewing.com if you'd like to talk about anything or learn anything else. And you can order right at the website and we'll ship it to you. You can also, we have a map that tells you everywhere you can buy it. So we're widely available. We are widely available coast to coast. So you can get us in almost every state.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
This was great.
Yeah, thanks.
For more episodes, visit innovationcity.co. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're in St. Louis, visit us on a Thursday night. Details at vincafstl.org. And connect with us on social at We Are Slam or at Venture Cafe STL. Thanks for listening.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die.